Check 1, 2.
Go! Curious about real estate? Yes! Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need. Get over the fear and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello, everybody. Michael Quarles with podcast number 155. We have 5 questions sent in by real estate investors. And remember, if you have a question, send it to support@bsffacademy.com. One more time, support@bsffacademy.com. Here we go. Question number 1. Who is Angel and what does he or she do? I keep hearing this name in the podcast and in the forums, but I still don't understand the role. Our angels are the last person who does negotiation. So we get it under contract or we don't get it under contract. So there's 2 types of negotiation that we're going to have an angel do. So if we have something under contract, keep in mind that we're always contracting cash and then converting it to terms. It's the angel that converts it to terms after the Ryan exhausts that possibility. The other thing that the angel does is they look at the agreements. So we got to a point where we made an offer to a seller and the seller said no. The angel then looks at those offers and tries to reconvert them into an acceptable offer because, as you know, cash is our lowest valued offer. So it's the lowest value to the seller. Well, we're able to increase the value to the seller if the seller accepts terms, but we're not negotiating that with a Ryan. We're only negotiating that with an angel. So the seller who, let's say as an example, let's assume for a second that I would have bought something at 70 cents on the dollar with seller financing on a 15-year amortized note, 5-year balloon. Let's assume that's the case. The Ryan's not negotiating that as the primary negotiation tool. So they're going to negotiate 60 cents. Let's assume that for a second. So that 10% spread could have been the difference in the seller's opinion on declining the offer. Where when the angel goes back and says, I can give you this other 10%, but in order to give you that 10%, which the seller can say yes to, we have to have that on terms. And so that's what the angel does. And again, the reason they're called angels is because that's a guy and a girl name, much like the Alex and the Ryan. Question number 2. If I have 2 separate sellers who have double wide trailers they want to sell, they have been brick foundation FHA proof straps. Do you suggest I move forward with these or do you think I should stay away? No, at the point that they're FHA approved and strapped down, they're property. I mean, they're real property. They're not motor vehicle property anymore, or they're not licensed with the motor vehicle. Confirm with your title escrow closing company that they actually do these types of escrows, but they should, or closings, because again, they're real property once it's secured to the foundation. I've done several. They're not the easiest to sell, but let's face it, they're typically mitigated because of lower value, and so they're going to be lower cost to a retail buyer, which sometimes that's advantageous for an area because sometimes buyers, especially where those units are located, have capital issues. So I don't think you have an issue with that. Now, find out how normal that is. If it's normal, then there's no issue at all. If it's really abnormal, like it's really looked upon negatively but in the marketplace, then whatever I say, it doesn't really matter because your marketplace is going to dictate what you should and shouldn't do. And how you would find that out is, call around 6 or 7 realtors, Century 21, Prudential, Coldwell Banker, Fred Sands, all those places. And if you have multiples of them, call multiples of them. Call them on different days. Different people are going to answer the phone because the up desk is the desk that agents work on a 2-hour or 4-hour basis kind of thing. So their job is to answer the phone when it rings for that period of time. So you call multiple times and get multiple opinions and find out for yourself what your local marketplace is willing to accept. I don't see an issue with it once it's strapped down. Again, confirm that your closing escrow company can actually perform, because one of the negatives in some things like contracts for deeds, land contracts, performance contracts, those kinds of things, that takes a special kind of closing person. And when we start deviating from what's normal, then it starts costing us more because we have to find those people. We have to create relationships, although we're supposed to be creating relationships on a constant basis. But sometimes it just takes more work. So when we're going out there and buying the traditional, quote unquote, properties, and we've already had those relationships in order to close it and to get the inspections and those kinds of things, established, well, those are easier transactions, so we don't have an issue with those. But anytime we start going into something that's non-performing, and then we're going to have to create relationships to have that, to structure the non-performing and have someone carry out those instructions. So just keep that in mind. I don't have an issue with the properties as long as they're FHA strapped. Question number 3, what would be the correct objection handler for this phrase? I can't believe you're so unprepared that you haven't done any research on the house. Do your research and call me back with an offer. Well, I just say thank you very much and go to the next caller. That's an indication. Here's what they're really saying. I'm not motivated to sell my house. But let's face it, you have a broken arm. So your arm's broken. I mean, from your elbow to your wrist, that part of your arm is broken. There's the other parts of your arm, I'm sure. But that's the part that's broken. And it's not just broken. It's like half of it's hanging towards the ground when you try to hold it parallel to the ground. So it's absolutely broken. Or you're going to call up for the cheapest price in town on who's going to set the arm and how much experience they have and have them get back to you. No. You're going to call 911 and an ambulance is going to come get you, and they're going to come and take you to the closest hospital that can set that arm correctly for you. You're not going to care who the doctor is, what they look like, anything about the doctor. All you're going to care about is that your broken arm's fixed. And a seller that says, call me back, I can't believe you're not prepared to give me a price. One, is not participating the way we need them to, but two, they're telling us loud and clear, I'm not ready to sell my house. I don't care where they get the knowledge from, any ridiculously trained real estate professional out there. Someone wants to go out there and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, your house is worth $200,000. Slap that seller across the face because the seller thought their house was worth $300,000, and they're giving them a reality check. I'm going to let anybody else give them that reality check. I'm not going to do it. I need them to be in reality land when they call me and highly motivated. Let them talk to all the other non-professional or unprofessional people out there. Let them wait for that call to come back to them for, weeks and get so frustrated with everybody else that when they call me and they hear my embedded commands when we set an appointment tomorrow to buy your house with 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock be better. When they hear all the embedded commands, when they hear the positive and negative reinforcements, the mimicking, the pacing, the neurolinguistics over the phone, and yes, that's possible, then they're going to understand that I'm a professional and they're dealing with professionals, and now they can start contributing to the process of selling their house. Anybody else short of that, be polite, because you're going to call them back in 15, 30, 60, 90 as they become more motivated. But in the beginning, if someone says that, kick them to the curb. You can't lose what you don't have. It's like saying, man, here you are. You look at this girl or this guy and they're Mr. Gorgeous or Miss Beautiful, and you get frustrated that they're married to somebody else. You can't look at it like that. You just have to go out and get your own, relationship going. Wait for it to come to you, but don't get all bent out of shape because you can't solve someone's problem. They have to start solving their own problem. My goodness.
Thanks for listening to Buy, Sell, Fix, Flip. We'll be right back. Are you running out of leads? It's time you tried Yellow Letters at yellowletters.com. Get motivated seller leads through yellow letters, postcards, zip letters, typed professional letters, greeting cards, door hangers, and business cards. Yellow Letters is a full-service marketing company created with your success in mind. Get the personal attention you need to get your direct mail campaign started, and get in touch at yellowletters.com.
And we are back in 3, 2, 1.
Is it necessary on all deals to have an appraisal and a BPO done? Also, do you have home inspections in every house you purchase through your system? That's 2 questions. Someone cheated. I'm just kidding. Is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. It's not like air and water and food kind of stuff. I mean, those are the only 3 necessities we have in life, I think. And other than that, nothing's necessary. Is it prudent? Well, I think so. I mean, here's the thing. I can do an appraisal or I can do a CMA on a piece of property much like an appraiser would do. 30-some years of experience and being a broker and member of the board and all that kind of good stuff. I understand valuation really well. Why would I want to use my own opinion? Remember what they say. The guy that represents himself has a fool for a client. Why do I want to represent myself? Why do I want to take my own opinion when it's only going to cost me $150 for a BPO at the very most, and $450 at the most for an appraisal? $600. We're buying properties where we're making 50 grand, and you can't invest less than 1% of that? Give me a break. Or I guess that's a little bit more than 1%, isn't it? I think you got to do it. So is it necessary? I think so, but it's not necessary. It's not like, again, food, water, and air. And you have home inspection. I rarely have a home inspection done. Your BPO and your appraisal and your pictures from your prospect. That's going to tell you a lot. Now, I believe that I may know a little bit more about construction than a lot of people, since I've built quite a few houses and I have my general building contractor's license, and I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rehabs, and I guess a couple remodels, unfortunately. But the reports from the BPO agent and the appraiser is going to come with what they think the ARV requirements are from a cost perspective. And when you look at a picture, you can kind of see ugly. You can look at it and go, gosh, I got to do this and I got to do that. Now, you also have to look at what other your comps are doing, which is the beautiful thing about the appraisal. The appraisal is actually going to give you pictures of your comparable sales as well. So then you can actually really zero in on why the appraisers appraising the way that they are. And the BPO may or may not. Most of them probably won't go be that thorough, which is why the appraisal, I think, is also nice. But it's also nice to have an appraisal because that's a lendable instrument, where a BPO is not, kind of thing. It's a cursory review from a lender's perspective, but it's not a lendable document. So no inspection, and I think you should, but that's just my opinion. Question number 5. Currently, 1/3 of my business comes from Bandit sites. Congratulations, although I think it's breaking the law. I have been able to help good people out of bad situations with these signs. They are illegal in my city. Well, so you're promoting doing stuff illegally. Okay. And last year I was cited to court and had to pay a small fine. Well, it's got to just cost of marketing, isn't it? And then you have to look at the ethics and morality of it, I guess. I mean, if you have kids, let's look at it this way. So I'm telling, as I raise my children, I try to raise them in a way that causes them to be successful from an ethics and moral and a legal perspective. So, here I am, I'm out there breaking the law, but I'm telling my kids that, so, you got to do it a different way. You can't look at life the way you'd like to. You have to look at it based upon how it affects other people. And, you're not supposed to walk on people, and you're not supposed to break the law legally, and you're not supposed to do these things. But don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm just letting you know you're not supposed to be doing, although I'm breaking the law. Continuing on with the question. Yesterday, a police officer served me with summons to court over my signs. I stopped counting at 52 violations. Congratulations. The possible fine is nearly $15,000. My attorney says that there is a new Supreme Court decision that says the city's discrimination of signs based upon content is a violation of the First Amendment. In other words, since my city allows political signs in the orange sign but not real estate signs, is a violation of free speech. That being said, I'm considering filing a federal lawsuit against the city. I think it's unfair that politicians exempt themselves from their own sign ordinance and find the sign ordinance to be obtrusive. Would you recommend doing this? No, I don't. You know what? And I know who wrote this. I would just get to work. I guess it's not a big enough fight that I care. And, I have a really good friend of mine that was fined a lot of money for his Bandit sign issue. And he was taken to court, and his argument was that he was beautifying the city with the houses that he bought using his Bandit signs. And the court looked at him and said, great, thank you very much. But here, I will reduce your fine to this amount if you pay it today. And, of course, he thanked the judge for reducing the amount because he reduced it considerably, paid his fine, and went on his way, and he doesn't use Bandit signs anymore. I think the only Bandit sign that you should use, there's 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. So you can do a bus bench, great Bandit sign. You can do a vehicle that has a wrap, just a gray Bandit sign. Or you can do the other type of Bandit sign, which is a billboard. And, just because you can't afford to do those things doesn't mean that you should circumvent the law, in my opinion anyway. Shame on you. I mean, once it becomes a law, then you want to use Bandit signs, use Bandit signs. Absolutely fall forward. But to circumvent it because you can't afford to do something else, and I know you can afford it. That's what's crazy about the question is you said a third of your business. Well, 2/3 comes from something else. So just do more of that and stop breaking the laws. Because how are you going to raise children and ask them to uphold to a moral and an ethical standard that you're not willing to uphold to? I just don't understand the hypocriticalness of that. And sometimes you have to look at stuff like that. It's not about what you are doing yourself and by yourself. It's how it's affecting those people around you and the credibility that you have in their opinion, their eyes, and what you're trying to gain by the big picture of life. And, if you want to get into a class action and some attorney wants to take it on that represents banditsigns.com or yardsigns.com or all the other sites out there, yeah, do that, be part of that. But in the meantime, do what's right, do what's legal. And I think it's irresponsible not to. Just because the law doesn't benefit you doesn't mean that you shouldn't have to adhere to the law. There's a lot of laws that don't benefit us that we have to adhere to that are ridiculous. I mean, in California, if I was a motorcycle rider, I'd like to ride without my helmet on. I'm not a motorcycle rider, but I'm thinking if I were, it would be nice to, it's probably one of the things they enjoy is getting out there and letting the wind hit them in the face and the bugs and everything else. And man, it's, but now they have to wear helmets. Is it right? No, I don't know. But it's the law. They should adhere to it. And if they don't, then they have to serve the consequences for it. And, that's just life. That's, move to another country if you don't like our laws. But in the meantime, unless, you want to get involved in a class action where someone's, a majority of people or a large group of people believe it's unconstitutional and violates the First Amendment and file your suit that way, yeah. But I don't think it compares with some of the other things in life that people stood up for. There's probably people turning in their graves that stood up for things that were important when they hear people standing up for such minute issues. We have bigger problems going on in the world than bandit signs and whether they're illegal and whether or not you should file suit against, the government. And you know what? I understand, the same thing can be said for cold calling because politicians can cold call and they're not privy to the do not call list where most everybody else is. They don't have to follow it because they are who they are. I think the argument, and of course we're not ever supposed to talk about politics and religion and all that kind of stuff, but who cares? It's not a law, so I can actually, break the politically correctness of it. But it's like I get frustrated when I see a police officer go faster down the road than he ought to or she ought to. Do I, am I going to speed with them? No. Although my car can go faster than theirs. Does it frustrate me? Yes. Do I know that they're breaking the law, that they're not going that speed because they have someplace to go that's important? I don't know that to be the case because I'm not listening to their radio. I'm not privy to that information. Sometimes it doesn't seem to be. I've seen people that were police officers in cars that run red lights. They're stopping at the stoplight, hit their siren so they can go, and they go through the light and turn the sirens off. I've seen it, It is what it is. Is it going to piss me off enough to take, the city to court, or the county to court, or whoever is to court? And no, it's not. I'm going to follow the rules. And again, if someone wants to do class action that police officers are using their sirens to run the red lights, maybe I'll get involved. But at the end of the day, our job is to buy houses. That's what's important. And if what you're doing is illegal and will harm you, and I think it will harm you more ways than what you have presented here in the question, then stop doing it. Do it the right way. Do it the legal way. If you want to do bandit signs, I pointed out 3 ways you can do bandit signs. Do some TV if you want to do that kind of marketing. Do some radio if you want, although that sucks. Some radio. Do some other things. But don't do, I wouldn't do bandit signs. And you know what? At the end of the day, in fact, in a year from now, we're going to have a political race for president. I don't know what the filing fee is, but file for your local election and now you can legally put a bandit sign out there. Don't vote for me, but I buy houses. Call 1-800 whatever. And I'm sure that you'll make the news and because you're ridiculing the system, but at the same time, then you can present your argument in public and at the same time you're probably not breaking the law because at that point as long as you paid your entry fee in the political race, you could probably run. And be careful, you might get elected, because there's probably a lot of people out there that think like you do, and will vote for you just in spite of everybody else. That said, great podcast. Sorry I got so caught up in question number 5. I just think it's a bigger question than should I put a Bandit sign out or not. I think there's a lot of ethics and morality involved in that question, and it's not always possible, but I try to hold ethics and morality more important than what's legal. And I think when you do it, you're better served. But that's because I've aged and I've got wiser in life as I grow. You know, when you're young and dumb, you can think you're Superman. I had a big OS on my chest for the longest time. I could fly too. If I jumped, I could jump about 6 feet. And so the distance I could fly was 6 feet. So I knew I had an S and I could fly. Anyway, talk to you guys tomorrow. Have fun. Until then, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.